All today. 80s Schmadies, you know who that is because we've been playing the Trenchies for almost the whole show. They have a brand new record out. I had their producer here to talk about it, Chris Silverio, which I really appreciate him coming in. It's a great record. It's called Addie's Dad is Famous. And they're a Chicago-based band. And 6 months ago when we started Psychobabble, I reached out to them and asked if I could use their song as an intro to the show. So we kind of cut it up a little bit and made it smaller, and I love it. You know, every time I hear that song, I'm like, yeah, this is the right song for this show.
I love it too.
My guest is Georgia. She's already here, but before we go to the chat, let me just tell you a few things, as I always do. Psychobabble is a weekly talk show where we try to cover a wide array of issues concerning mental health and well-being, both macro and micro. Any information you hear today is strictly informational. It should not substitute for actual therapeutic advice. So if you need that kind of help, you need to reach out to your therapist. Or if you're having a hard time finding a therapist, there's an excellent tool online called psychologytoday.com, and they have a therapist finder. Highly recommend it. Also, if you're having any issues that might be considered a crisis, including suicidal thoughts or thoughts of self-harm, there is an excellent way of getting help. It's called 988. All you have to do is dial or text 988, and they will help you through that crisis. Anything else I need? Oh yeah, anything you hear from me or Georgia is strictly our opinions and not those necessarily of the leadership of the station here. And I'm sure Georgia's going to say some outrageous things, so it's very important that I make that clear. My guest today is Georgia Copeland Bromehead. Did I get that right, Georgia?
You did.
All right.
Good job.
Georgia is I can be completely transparent about this. Georgia is a friend of our dear DJ Alexis, and Alexis, whose show is Fridays at 5 o'clock. It's called Free Association. It's really great.
Mm-hmm.
I love it because every Friday when I'm coming home, I'm going to listen to her show, and I know it's going to be some cool stuff. Anyway, she said I should talk to her good friend Georgia, who does this thing called forest therapy, and we're going to talk about forest therapy. But before I get to that, I want to ask Georgia kind of in whatever way she wants. Mm-hmm. And remember, dozens of people might be listening. Georgia's a little nervous. I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and, kind of tell us about yourself in the broad sense, Georgia, but then kind of how did you get into being a forest therapist and a therapist?
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you tell us all about yourself.
Thank you. I know that answer, so that's a great place to start. I am quite nervous.
Georgia is nervous, but she has water with her.
Acknowledge
she has her stone.
I brought a stone in.
Yeah.
I brought some leaves in. It's just odd to talk to people that you can't see.
So just ask people to use their imaginations.
Hi, I'm imagining your faces. But Ed, I'm going to just talk to you.
Yeah, talk to me.
Hi.
I'm looking at Georgia right now.
Hi.
She is sitting here. She has a couple of leaves on the table, and she has a stone that she's brought in. And so I'm going to try to do my best to be the stand-in for everyone out there.
Thank you. Usually when I talk about forest therapy, I'm actually in the woods.
Right.
And I feel comforted there. But here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Human Ed.
Human Ed. And not in the woods.
Not in the woods. That's okay. I can see out the window. I can see my friends.
We can see some
out
trees.
there. Yeah.
Nashville hasn't cut them all down yet.
No, they haven't. I am, let's see, how did I come to forest therapy, being a guide, and how did I come to being a therapist? I grew up in the woods, playing outside a lot. I think that, of course, influences your life path, what nature connection you had as a child.
Are you a Nashvilleian?
I am.
Okay.
Well, I grew up in Robertson County.
Oh, well, okay.
What's
You're
that,
middle Tennesseer.
Yes.
Lifelong middle Tennesseer.
That's right. Up on the Highland Rim.
I hear it now.
But yes. My accent's changed quite a bit, but you can still hear it sometimes. So I worked in nonprofit for a really long time, which is where I met awesome Alexis. And then I had a big life shift, and I ended up an ESL teacher in Japan. And I started noticing their nature connection.
I'm just curious about that. My daughter is she is studying Korean in school and is thinking about after college going to teach English in South Korea.
Yes.
How did you, I know this is off topic, but give us the give us the Reader's Digest version. How did you get that gig?
I went and I got a teaching certificate. So I think the Tennessee Foreign Language Institute still offers training for English teachers here in Nashville. But I thought it would be more fun to go to Spain. So I went to Spain for 3 months and earned my TEFL certificate, basically. And it's quite intense, the training, but I'm glad I had it. I loved it. I've always loved language and accent and learning and all that. So I took that certificate. We applied, my husband and I, who wasn't my husband at the time, applied for a couple's job in rural Japan on the internet. There's a whole database of TEFL jobs.
Wow.
And I think it's Dave's ESL or something. Feels like years ago now. But we got the job and we ended up in a mountain town in Japan called Takayama with no heat or air conditioning in our Japanese traditional house and snow up to our hips and teaching in kindergarten. I taught from 3-year-olds to 70-year-olds.
And I'm assuming you didn't know Japanese going into that.
No, and you shouldn't. So you shouldn't ever speak the language of the country that you're in the classroom, because then the students, that's how they learn. It's all English.
Immersion or whatever.
And they don't want, once they know you speak the language, they will only want to speak their language.
Oh, so, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so that was a huge year for me, and noticing they're very connected to the seasons and to nature. The kindergarten I taught in, the kids were barefoot in the summer, and in the winter they would sled. It was, nature is a huge part of life in Japan. And part of their religion too, part of Shinto. And I was poking around on the internet, and I thought maybe I'll open up a forest preschool, because the kids there, are delightful. And I thought I wanted to do that for the rest of my life. And I found the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy's website, which is a training. It's an association founded by Amos Clifford in California, that trains guides to help adults with nature connection. And I thought, yes, this is what the world needs more.
So you lived in Japan for about a year.
Yes.
Teaching school, and you're also becoming amazed by their connection to that culture's connection to nature and its respect for nature, and kind of living within, surrounding themselves and kind of embracing the seasonal changes. And that kind of inspired you to think more about how you could incorporate that into your life. And then when you get home, you reach out to this organization. And what is the name of it again? Association
of Nature and Forest Therapy.
Okay.
And I waited a long time. It was on the back burner of my mind for a couple years. I ended up working at a local pharmacy and herbal medicine consult and, all sorts. But I came back to the training and pulled the trigger on it in 2019. And got trained in 2019 to be an Association of Nature and Forest Therapy guide. And I didn't know, I thought this is just one more of my things that I'm just trying, and one more of my hobbies, or, who knows what's going to happen. But the training was so deep, so archetypal. There's so much going on to forest therapy that the walkers kind of never know about. But it was really transformational for me and my personal nature connection, even though I had one from childhood. And I've just let it flow organically. And ever since then, I just keep walking and I keep being called.
Maybe this is where I should ask, what is forest therapy?
What is
Can
forest
you give
therapy?
us a working definition?
So I can't really talk about forest therapy without talking about forest bathing.
Yes, let's talk about that. I saw that phrase in your bio you sent me. And I guess I may have heard that before, but what does that mean, forest bathing? I mean, is that just a clever metaphor, or what's going on? Tell me about that.
So what's going on with it is there's a Japanese word that is shinrin-yoku, and it's bathing in the atmosphere of the forest. So we kind of, in the West, took that word and made it forest bathing, translated it forest bathing. Forest bathing is simply what it sounds like. It's being in nature, bathing in the atmosphere of nature. Forest therapy is a specific protocol that was created by Amos Clifford, the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy founder, as a way to guide forest bathing. So it's a way to guide folks towards a nature connection. Anybody can forest bathe all the time alone. Just go stare at a tree. And I want to talk more about what is happening in the brain and body. But that's what forest therapy is. It's a sense-based nature connection practice, but it's a specific protocol that we're trained in.
Gotcha.
And people do use the terms interchangeably. Some guides will...
Like forest bathing versus forest therapy.
Yeah, some guides just say I guide forest bathing.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
and that's fine. But I like to differentiate it a little bit because it's a little bit more structured. And in that structure,
the structure is
unfold.
the forest therapy is a little bit more structured.
That's
than
right.
Forest bathing.
It's a specific kind of very open protocol that I'm trained in, and it's based on Amos Clifford's experience as a psychotherapist combined with like Jungian archetypes and just all kinds of awesome stuff. But you never, as a walker, that doesn't really come through, but it is a really well thought out experience.
Gotcha. That's cool.
Yeah. So forest bathing was studied. It kind of came into consciousness as a thing in the 80s and 90s in Japan, where they had an overwork epidemic. People were dying from working.
Yep.
I mean, they still are.
Yep.
But scientists studied the effect of nature on the physical body and found blood pressure reducing, cortisol reducing, and immune system boosting. So another kind of play on this forest bathing term is when you're outside amongst the trees, this is so nerdy and so cool, the trees emit something called phytoncides. It's like little tiny molecules, little essential oil particles that keep themselves safe.
Okay.
And when we're amongst the trees, specifically evergreens, but all trees, we inhale those phytoncides. They go into our bodies and they kick off our natural killer cell response, which are the part of the immune system that goes and sees what could be a potential problem.
Oh.
Isn't that cool?
That's cool.
It's so cool.
So you're breathing in the trees. What's that? Give me the technical term again.
Phytoncides.
And those are molecules coming off the trees?
Yes.
That's wild.
So we're literally bathing in the atmosphere of the forest, forest bathing in that way. So they found all these benefits physiologically. And then as time moved on, they started studying psychological benefit and found that feelings of aggression reduced, feelings of peace increased, peace and well-being, depression, anxiety reduced. There are tons of studies on nature viewing, or even, there's a study of hospital patients recovering more quickly if they have a window in their room.
Right.
All kinds of science behind.
You mentioned the word protocol.
Yeah.
So when we come back from our musical break, I'm
yeah.
going to want maybe you to unpack that a little bit. Is that okay?
Yes.
I mean, what is the protocol? So,
okay.
As usual, I asked our guest, and this time it's Georgia, to pick out 3 songs, and she did. All really excellent. The first tune we're going to listen to is by Peter, Paul, and Mary. This is Lemon Tree. And I might ask Georgia why she picked this when we're done listening to it.
Okay.
So enjoy, everybody.
When I was just a lad of 10, my father said to me, "Come here and take a lesson from the lovely lemon tree." "Don't put your faith in love, my boy," my father said to me. "I fear you'll find that love is like the lovely lemon tree." Lemon tree, very pretty, and the lemon flower is sweet, but the fruit of the poor lemon is impossible to eat. Lemon tree, very pretty, and the lemon flower is sweet, but the fruit of the poor lemon is impossible to eat. One day beneath the lemon tree, my love and I did lie. A girl so sweet that when she smiled, the stars rose in the sky. We passed that summer lost in love beneath the lemon tree. The music of her laughter hid my father's words from me. Lemon tree very pretty, and the lemon flower is sweet, but the fruit of the poor lemon is impossible to eat. Lemon tree very pretty, and the lemon flower is sweet, but the fruit of the poor lemon is impossible to eat. One day she left without a word. She took away the sun, and in the dark she'd left behind, I knew what she had done. She'd left me for another. It's a common tale but true. A sadder man but wiser now, I sing these words to you. Lemon tree very pretty, and the lemon flower is sweet, but the fruit of the poor lemon is impossible to eat. Lemon tree very pretty, and the lemon flower is sweet, but the fruit of the poor lemon is impossible to eat. Lemon tree, lemon tree, lemon tree, lemon tree.
All right, that is Peter, Paul, and Mary with Lemon Tree. Georgia, tell us about the selection of that song. What's going on there?
Well, the world needs more Peter, Paul, and Mary played on the radio, but also I think the sense of taste. So forest therapy is based in the senses, and the sense of taste is rare in songs and literature. So I love.
That's great. Then that's a really good choice. When before we got off and listened to you know what? I'm not doing my job. Let me do my job real quick. Support for WXNA comes from Special Olympics, providing year-round health screening, sports training, and athletic competition in a variety of Olympic-type sports for children and adults with intellectual disabilities. The goal is to develop physical fitness, demonstrate courage, experience joy, and participate in a sharing of gifts, skills, and friendship with their families and communities. Special Olympics transforms lives through the joy of sport every day, everywhere. More information at specialolympics.tn.org. A listener by the name of Bill sent me a message saying Georgia's doing a great job, and Bill wants us to know that he's in Georgia, so he's an expert.
I
on Georgia.
love it. Thank you, Bill.
Anyway, before we got off the air, I asked Georgia to be prepared to talk about the protocol. So that word pricked my ears because that kind of means there's rules, there's things to do. And so forest therapy and forest bathing, those interlocked concepts aren't simply just walking through the woods. Although I'm sure walking through the woods is innately good for you, it's not the same as forest therapy. So kind of kind of spell that out or draw that out a little bit. What is the protocol for forest therapy?
So there's a couple things I could talk about. It's designed specifically to help us slow down the mind and get more into our bodies and our senses. There are 19 senses, not just 5. And as guides, we have thousands of what we call invitations, which are just sense-based activities, if you will, to wander out and try. So those are we're really trained to craft invitations in a way where the gate is open enough for everyone to have their own experience, but the gate still exists. Because if you just go out in nature sometimes with folks and say, go connect with nature, nobody knows what to do.
Right.
We have to remember. We lost that, in growing up. Most of us did. So it's specifically crafted language, such as, this is not a good example probably, but there are millions of textures in this place. I invite you to wander out and feel the textures. It can be something that it sounds very
That's a great example.
open,
so really,
but a little
really focusing
specific.
on in that situation, your sense of feel and touch.
Exactly.
You said there's 19 senses. Now, I'm not challenging you on that, but I am curious about that because when I talk to my clients, I do emphasize their 5 senses and really trying to detach themselves from their thinking mind and put themselves into their feeling self and let their nervous system do a little work, But what do you mean, if you don't mind me asking, what do you mean by 19 senses?
Well, we think the standard 5, and then we
Right.
think of things like imagination as a sense,
yeah.
interoception, proprioception, these
right.
types of things.
I gotcha. Yes.
Yeah.
So, so part of the protocol is that you're giving specific instructions. It's not just go hang out in the woods. Again, it's like,
That's right.
go use, your sense of touch to go investigate or be curious about textures. And that would be one example.
Yes.
What are some other kind of instructions you might give?
I mean, goodness, there are imagination-based ones, such as let's find a place to sit or stand and gaze at the sky. I wonder where the clouds have been and where they're going to. And I realize saying this right now is so out of context that it's probably sounds weird to listeners, but we as guides, we have a way to open the walk and a way to close the walk, and all of this is taking place sort of in the middle when folks are already invited into what we call liminal headspace. And I mean, therapists are familiar with that too, but it's more of a right-brained existence, nonverbal, and we get there through our bodies, so touching, smelling, listening. I say when you turn up the volume of the body, the volume of the mind starts to turn down. So when people move from left verbal chatter headspace to right brain, more imaginative, abstract, timeless space, then, wow, even if there's just a glimpse of that in the forest therapy walk, that's where some insight comes sometimes, metaphor, symbol, emotion that has been suppressed by the chatter. We say all is welcome and nothing is guaranteed. So feelings of boredom or grief, I've noticed themes of noticing black and white thinking, or the ability to finally understand that death and life are all one thing.
You were saying
arise.
again a little off air. I hate when I get the good stuff off air because then I gotta. What were you saying? And you were saying it's not about naming things. It's not about getting out into the woods and saying I'm looking at a tree and that is a bird and that is the sun. So could you elaborate on that a little bit? How do we get away from that kind of categorization and constant naming of things?
Yeah, when I first started, I had a lot of folks show up to walks and say, I'm a bird watcher,
Right.
or what's the name of this tree? Which is
Right.
so much fun, but its own thing.
Right.
I always say an oak tree doesn't call itself an oak tree. It just sounds like in the wind.
Right. Yes.
So we're trying to get back into that space, much like childhood, where we're not naming things, which kind of separates us from that thing. We're walking up to a non-human being and scratching it, smelling it. What does it sound like? How does it move? That's tough to access just on your own out of nowhere. And that's where the guides come in. And that's just such an honor to help give people permission to slow down and get to that liminal
Now, when you're
headspace.
doing this work, do you do this with a group or as an individual, or how does that function?
Groups, individuals, couples,
Couples.
which is really sweet.
Okay.
All kinds.
And I said earlier, because I'm still learning about what this is, I said this is forest therapy and forest bathing is not hiking. It's
No.
not hiking through the woods.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some of the other kinds of differences between a good rigorous hike through the ridges at Radnor Lake versus forest bathing?
Forest therapy and forest bathing are slow in their nature. So slowing down and taking in the atmosphere of your surroundings, you start to notice more. There's no achievement, so there's no destination. It's wild to do walks with members of the public hiking by, and see the contrast in the space that we are in, which is sometimes it looks like someone's just standing still staring, but that's exactly where you kind of want to be, versus people talking loud and walking fast, and you kind of miss all these details. Forest therapy is designed to connect us in relation to natural beings, and for us to finally see our place in this giant system. And when you're walking really quickly, you miss a lot of detail.
That's awesome.
It's really
I feel like
awesome.
that's, what's going on there too, which I try to help clients do in less poetic ways than forest therapy, is to help them decenter themselves a little bit, like not always see themselves as the center of the universe.
Yes.
Because folks who are dealing with chronic pain, whether it's physical or psychic or both, I call it the narcissism of the afflicted, not because they're narcissists, but because when you're in that constant state of turmoil, you begin to just see everything through that lens, and you feel like the whole world's there to get you.
Yes.
And trying to figure out ways of helping people see themselves as part of something larger and not the center of it all, to me, is very important. And that sounds like a great little insight there. Like if you're connecting to nature, the forest, you're seeing that, like you're saying, you're part of a larger system. You're
got
not
it.
You're not the victim of that, nor are you the hero of that. You're just part of it.
You got it.
That's cool.
You got it.
That's great.
There's also, I do want to mention another study that I get so excited about. Dr. Stephen and Ann Kaplan came up with this term called attention restoration theory, where they coined a term called soft fascination. And soft fascination is what we are in when we're, for example, watching a leaf fall or watching a ripple on a pond, or waterfall, or a flame flicker. They have found, as opposed to hard fascination, which is like Netflix or texting or watching a movie or even reading, where you're still processing data, even though you feel relaxed. So they say, and they've studied, that soft fascination time actually almost defrags the brain to make more capacity for attention. So we need these moments of what looks like staring it's rare to just stare, at a tree that's moving. But this is what our brain actually needs in order to be more productive. So if more companies would just let their people, forest walk, then productivity
That's not very productive,
would go
Georgia.
up. Right.
How can we monetize that and get more profit out of people?
Our computers are rammed.
It's not going to be letting them sit in the woods. I can tell you that
I
much.
know it. Right.
We're going to come back. I'm going to not challenge, because I'm not challenging Georgia, but I want to be more specific. I want to ask her, how can forest therapy be helpful to people, say, with ADHD? Or how can it be effective for people who have depression, or people who have perhaps trauma of some sort, PTSD, or other forms of trauma? So I'm putting that thought in her head so she can be thinking about that. We're going to take another musical break here. You can never go wrong with these guys.
The sun, I say it's alright. Little darling,
right. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. I was telling Georgia that I associate that song myself with the woods because when I was a young man, I went on a 6-week canoe trip up in Canada, and when we were portaging over from lake to lake, which was very hard to do. For some reason, I must have been, as a 15-year-old boy, I must have been into the Beatles, and I would always hum that song as I was carrying my very heavy canoe through the woods. Here Comes the Sun. Beautiful song. Thank you, Georgia, for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
And let me read something before we get back to our interview. Anything could happen, and usually does, on Tommy Womack's Happiness Hour. That's Monday mornings at 9, only on WXNA 101.5 FM, streaming, WXNAFM.org. Diversity is what we're all about at WXNA, with more than 80 unique programs, all lovingly curated by dedicated DJs. WXNA stitches together a radio rainbow of gloriously diverse sounds. We are only able to do this through the financial support of our many members. Support your source for truly independent radio by visiting WXNAFM.org and becoming a member today. So before I ask Georgia about specific situations people are dealing with when they come to her for forest therapy, I wanted to ask her about her show and tell. She's like the kindergarten teacher coming in with her stuff to show the kids. So I'm going to be the kid and let her talk to me about it. But she does have in front of her a stone and a couple of leaves. So take it away, Georgia. What do you got to show today?
Well, I brought these for myself as soothing little items from the parking lot today because nature is everywhere. I have a little slender leaf here that's got a little tint of green but is mostly yellow and has kind of crackly brown edges. I have a beautiful bright yellow, like the hot dog mustard color leaf with red veins in it.
It looks like a maple leaf, but I'm not 100%.
Well, we don't know. It just feels good.
But you don't label it. It's
right.
It's just what it is.
It just looks beautiful and it feels smooth and it feels kind of cool on my cheek. And then a rock that's dark gray on one side and kind of whitish gray on the other side and fits right in my palm and gives me some good weight when I hold it. So thank you, little objects, for being with me today. I felt weird coming into a building to talk about forest therapy, so I just grabbed them.
No, that's good. And I often use objects like that to help my clients have a way of grounding on the go, like keeping an object like a stone in the car or whatever, so they can, when they're feeling distressed, can kind of put their hands around it and kind of be aware of that sensation. So I love that. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about specific situations that people are dealing with, whether it's a diagnosis like ADHD or other issues. So could you just, I know there must be many examples, but how would you, if I have ADHD, if I have attention deficit disorder, what's going to be some of the things you want me to do and experience when I go on a forest bathing or forest therapy experience?
Well, I'm just kind of coming into that world more. Being a therapist is a second career for me, so I'm pretty early in it, and I was a guide first, which as far as I know, according to my mentors, is unique in the maybe world.
Because usually it's the other way around.
Right,
therapists
might say,
guides. Hey, I want to go learn to do this.
Yeah, so I'm trying to bridge these two worlds from a firmly rooted in my guide shoes. But with you mentioned ADHD, for example, I think it goes back to the Kaplan's study about brain capacity. I would be really interested. I would love Vanderbilt. Hey, I would love to do a study over time of regular forest therapy walks and helping people engage with that soft fascination and just see what happens with attention restoration, as the Kaplans call it. Depression and anxiety, they've already researched that and measured that when people spend intentional time in nature, those symptoms reduce. I think part of that is similar to what they're finding in psychedelics, which is and like you were saying before, you find yourself part of a greater system and you see a bigger picture.
Right. your ego defense is kind of lower, hopefully. You're not so guarded with your...
Yeah, or burdened with the thought that you have to do it all alone and nothing else is here. I mean, we're all just islands until we remember and start to have a conversation with other beings that are completely non-judgmental, like non-human beings. And then I think for me, this practice has been so beautiful and such a good fit because I tend to be on the lower emotional control, I guess, spectrum as a person, and I also am a kinetic person, so I like to move and touch and smell and look and be curious anyway, and I have always had a hard time with seated meditation, which I know is so beneficial to our brains and emotions, but this practice is almost a different way to get into that liminal headspace, that meditative headspace, that allows my body to move. I always knew when I was sewing or cooking, I could get into that blank kind of childlike starey zone, which is restorative. But now that I've found this practice, I see the correlation there. So I think it's great for folks who have a harder time with seated meditation because we can move and be curious and smell and cry and laugh and,
You were saying that unusually you got trained as a forest guide prior to becoming a therapist, but now you are a therapist. So what kinds of situations are you most interested in when it comes to working with folks? Do you have a particular, not specialty, I mean, we're talking about your specialty, but is there a particular population that you really enjoy bringing this to?
Yes. Perfectionists, over-controlled folks, people who are disconnected from their bodies due to trauma or just a learned coping of must figure it out. Why can't I figure it out? And then they end up in our offices. So the figuring it out folks are the ones that I love because I'm that way a little bit too. And I love just introducing them to this relationship or these millions of possible relationships with all of these non-human beings in this massive system we call nature. And also ANFT, the association, is very focused on not forgetting that humans are nature too. So it's a part of our walk is reconnecting with our own bodies as natural beings. What do I smell like? What do I move like? What do I sound like when I rustle this leaf? So it's a gentle, non-directive door opening for someone to start to reconnect and remember that they have a body. That's it. Forest therapy is not encouraging any type of emotion or release. It's very open.
So in a way you have no agenda as the forest guide.
No, we say the forest is the therapist. The guide just opens the doors.
Okay.
So it's a way, I think it's a beautiful way for folks who are having trouble relating to humans or themselves in a gracious way or stable way, to start practicing what relationship feels like.
So I told you I was going to ask you this question earlier. What are some places around Nashville or Middle Tennessee that you would say these are really awesome places to go and practice this on your own to some extent? Again, not hiking trails, not to go climb a mountain, but to go and bathe in the forest. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I will say,
as a consumer guide,
my favorite park around Nashville for trees is Beeman Park.
Beeman Park. I love Beeman
Park. Yeah. The sound of the wind in the trees, that's where you go to hear that sound. Highland Rim Trail.
Right.
Shelby Park is also so accessible, and it's a whole different environment. You're in a flat land with kind of it's a field experience. So you've got that open expanse, and that's really interesting to be around too. Totally different environments.
Right.
I love that. And I'm passionate about encouraging people that they can have nature connection and forest bathing in their yards with a Christmas tree, with the Kroger parking lot trees.
Right.
Nature is
so you're not precious about
everywhere.
it. It's not like, you got to go to some serene place.
No, because that makes it inaccessible and feel overwhelming and like something to fail at again, and that's not this.
When you are working with a client or a group of people, how do you decide where to go? Is that something that like you were making a distinction between Beeman Park with the trees and the ridge versus Shelby, I'm sorry, Shelby with the flatness and the openness. Are there certain problems people have that, one would be more appropriate than the other? Is that just purely like what the client wants or what you want, or how does that get decided where you're going to go?
Part of it straight up is logistics.
Okay, yeah.
And
sure.
relationships with the park. Shelby
right.
has been such a kind place. The staff there is so understanding of how this work aligns with their mission. They've been awesome. And I would love more relationships with more local parks too. But yeah, part of it's logistics. And then the other big part is just trusting. There's going to be something for everybody, no matter where you go. So sometimes I go to their own private residence. You really can. Once you start practicing, you really understand it doesn't have to be the perfect natural environment.
That's what we're kind of getting away from perfectionism.
Exactly, which is so liberating for me too, personally.
Right.
It's been such a cool lesson to learn over time.
Well, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that?
Well, I do have a website called foresttherapynashville.com.
foresttherapynashville.com.
That's right. I'm on the Instagram. I'm on the Facebooks.
Right.
But yeah, the website's probably
Georgia,
the best.
Copeland, Bromehead.
That's right.
Okay, got it right.
You got
And
it. I'm so happy.
Everyone knows how to use the internet, so y'all know how to find her if you need her. But this sounds really, I think it sounds great. I kind of want to go do it.
Please
right
come.
now.
I would love to lead some therapists on a walk so you can really experience what it's like. It's hard to describe.
That's actually a great idea. You should do that.
I should.
You should promote that to MPI or something. Get some people to come out and.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
Yes.
Well, Georgia, thank you very much. We have one more
Thank
song
you.
that you chose, which is another great one. This is Otis Redding, "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay." I mean, it's a great song, but what about this song spoke to you?
Well, he's talking about just sitting, and sometimes forest therapy. Oh, that doesn't sound like it. Different, but I'm curious what that was. Otis, where are you?
Otis, yeah. So sitting.
Just sitting. Sometimes forest therapy looks like just sitting, and it's that feeling of like I'm just watching the ships come in,
right,
and I'm watching them go away again.
Right. So just being present,
that's
observing,
right.
using your senses,
right.
Sitting on the dock of the bay. Thank you, Georgia. Let's listen to this song.
Thank you.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay, 'cause I've had nothing to live for, and look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Look like nothing's gonna change, everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Yes, sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone. Listen, 2,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. Now I'm just gonna sit at the dock of a bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm sitting on the dock of a bay, wasting time.
I was 21 years when I wrote this song. I'm 22 now, but I won't be for long. People ask me when will you grow up to be a man, but all the girls I loved at school are already pushing prams. I loved you then as I love you still. Though I put you on a pedestal, they put you on the pill. I don't feel bad about letting you go, I just feel sad about letting you know. I don't want to change the world, I'm not looking for a New England, I'm just looking for another girl. I don't want to change the world, I'm not looking for a New England, I'm just looking for another girl. I love the words you wrote to me, but that was bloody yesterday. I can't survive on what you send every time you need a friend. I saw 2 shooting stars last night, I wished on them, but they were only satellites. It's wrong to wish on space hardware. I wish you'd care. I don't want to change the world, I'm not looking for a New England, I'm just looking for another girl. I don't want to change the world, I'm not looking for a New England, I'm just looking for another girl. Looking for another girl, looking for another girl, looking for another girl.
All right, that is Billy Bragg with a New England, which Kirsty MacColl actually made very big. And before that, we had Kirsty MacColl with Am I Right from Kite. I want to give a big shout out and thanks to Georgia Copeland, Bromehead, for coming in today and educating us about forest therapy. You can reach her at Forest Therapy Nashville, and it's on the internet. You know how to use the internet. She was delightful, and I felt like I learned a lot. So thank you, Georgia, for coming in. Remember, everything you heard today was strictly the opinion of myself or Georgia, not that of the station. Also, if you're having any kind of mental health crises, please reach out to 988. You can text or call 988. And remember, nothing you hear today substitutes for actual therapy from a professional. We're going to slip back into just some music for the last few minutes before Friday Afternoon Club comes up. This is brand new from Pylon Reenactment Society. Dig it, Count the Flowers.
don't wanna meet them. Say goodbye.
band. When you see them, you don't wanna meet them. Street tough. Street tough.
All right, that is Circus Devils, which you may or may not know is a Robert Pollard, a.k.a. God of My Horses side project. And before that, we had Pylon Reenactment Society with a brand new song called Count the Flowers. That is Vanessa Hay of Pylon, who now has her own band backing her up singing Pylon songs, but she also has new songs, which is kind of cool. And they're both really good, at least the two I've heard. I'm going to go out here with, I played that Robert Pollard song, the Circus Devils, and I thought, Street Toughs. His hero is Pete Townsend. He has a song called Rough Boys. I think he must have gotten it from this. Have a great weekend, everybody. Friday Afternoon Club is up next.